Hi everyone, happy Friday. Um, so tonight I'm going to be chatting to Allanah from Riverside Wedding Venues and Events. So Allanah and I have known each other for quite a while, a few years, when she first started her business, and now she's built up her portfolio of venues in Yorkshire and looks after them all. So we're going to chat about the various venues she's got and how she's coping at the moment with the current situation. Hi everybody watching. And chat away about the venues as well. They're amazing. And I have done a wedding in one of them, stayed over in another one, and yeah, seen them all, experienced them. They're all different. They all offer something different to different couples. So depending on what you're looking for, and quite often they feature on like Yorkshire escapes, kind of amazing places to go have a wedding or just stay. Yes, Valentina Weddings, yeah, great venues they are. They're fab venues. And yeah, she started off with her own home, Tanfield House, which is not far from me, not far from Ripon, in North Yorkshire. And that's where I've done a wedding there as the wedding planner. And it's beautiful scenery down by the river. So she started off as Riverside event. And has grown her portfolio, as I said. So I'm just seeing if she's actually joined yet. Can't see that she has, hoping that she's watching. I'll just check. There we go. Hopefully she'll appear any second now. Yeah, there you are. Hi, Allanah. How are you?
I'm really well. I'm really well. Thank you for inviting me on my first ever Instagram live. Terrifying.
Yeah, well done. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, perfectly. Yeah, good. That's a good start. Just checking. Brilliant. Yeah. So whereabouts are you at the moment? You in your...
I'm in Tanfield House, yeah, at home.
You're in house, yeah, fab. And are you in the dining room, living room?
I'm in my office, actually.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh,
my little quiet office that takes me away from my lovely family.
oh, yeah, no, that's hard, isn't it? It's hard, yeah, working with teenagers running around kind of, or not even running around, not getting out of bed and trying to get them motivated to do stuff. Did your son start the new job, by the way?
Yeah, we won't talk about that.
Okay, right.
No, it's been a tricky week's conversation, I can tell you. Factory work does not appear to be for Luke.
Oh no. Oh, let's talk about weddings instead.
Let's talk about weddings.
We love weddings. So yeah, so for anyone watching, do you want to just tell everyone how you got started with, you know, starting off with Tanfield House, where the idea came from and where you are now and how long we've been going for?
Okay, so I've worked in event management for a long, long time before thinking about doing anything in our own home. So we were lucky enough to take over a family home, which is a Georgian house in a riverside setting. And beautiful place to live, but these places cost money to run. And over a bottle of wine one evening, somebody said, "Why don't you do weddings here?" And I thought it was a slightly insane idea, but with your invaluable help, Lucy, we did find a way to introduce Tanfield House to the wedding market. And actually, we were just overwhelmed. We were really overwhelmed quite quickly by the enthusiasm of couples really looking for something different. Now, this was nearly 7 years ago, actually, when we started thinking about it. Yeah, so 7 years ago when we started planning, this would have been our 6th season this year.
Yeah.
So so what couples were really looking for when we started marketing, and we learned very quickly that to step away from the sort of commercial, big, large, sort of inflexible venues, there was a real demand for that. And also because Tanfield House is not huge, it's a sort of Georgian house on the banks of the River Yor. The setting is what people really bought into, that very intimate riverside romance. Yeah. And we, my very clever husband built a beautiful gazebo by the river, which we license for ceremonies. So we can have ceremonies outside and inside. But we really specialize in intimate, small weddings. So everything from elopements of, 4 to 10 people up to 100 people at Townfield House with a marquee. And our average size is about 60 people. So it's all very small and very intimate. And I think what people really love about it is that it's private, it's exclusive to them. And it's almost dry hire. It's not completely dry hire because we're here and we're running it for them. But they get complete flexibility with all their suppliers. It allows them to be in control of their budget. And we've had some really varied and amazing weddings here.
Yeah. And also, and because you're there, I think that's a lovely security, actually, knowing that you are there, you're on site looking after them, and for as much or as little they need, really, and just making sure they're all happy. But I think it's so lovely that you really look after them, both you and Neil, on the journey of planning, and really make it very bespoke and personal to them, rather than just being another number, another couple in a conveyor belt kind of venue. It's so bespoke, and that's what I've seen. And every time you go there, like, you just know your couple so well. It's so special, and quite rare to find, I suppose, with venues these days, which is
it's nice to hear you say that, because you know better than I do. You're in and out of a lot more venues than I am. But certainly flexibility, which couples crave, can come with a lot of hard work, as you know, and that vision that couples have of what they want to create for their wedding day can be really spectacular and can actually be entirely achievable, but not unless you know how to achieve it. And that's what I really love doing, is sort of navigating couples through that. So we're here from beginning to end. And also, we don't do more than 10 weddings at Townfield House a year. So we're never in a big conveyor belt of weddings. I have plenty of time, and another girl who works with me now. So we can really look after them closely, and there's a lot of tech involved. So, we can keep up with the millennial requirements.
I know. So you started with, obviously, with Tanfield, your own house, and then how did it develop from there to kind of build a portfolio of venues that you've got now?
Right. Well, so Townfield House was becoming very popular, which was great, and gave us a lot of confidence, and we were able to take that steep learning curve with you helping us tremendously in those early years. And it just snowballed a little bit too quickly for us, because it's still home. So when the children are home from school, although they're not kids anymore, but when they're home, we still wanted Townfield to be home. So we didn't want to do more than 10 a year. And we thought, well, if we could find somewhere else, or with a joint venture with someone else that might like to do the same thing, we could duplicate what we do elsewhere. But actually, we didn't have to really go looking. So we had a friend of ours called Ollie Leatham owns a really beautiful place up in Swaledale. It's called Telford Farm, and he was developing that for high-end holiday lets and shooting parties and yoga retreats and various things. So he approached us and asked if we'd like to do weddings there. And so that was the next obvious joint venture. And that's just amazing. It's such a beautiful place. And the advantage of Telford over Tanfield is that it accommodates more people. So it can accommodate up to 18 people staying on site, whereas we can only accommodate 6 on site. And it's very different. We've got the Riverside and the outdoor ceremonies, which they can't do at Telford. So there's pros and cons of both. But it also has a little, very intimate ceremony barn and a beautiful dining barn, so we can have weddings for up to 50 there.
Yeah, beautiful.
That's very popular. And then we were approached by another friend of ours who's got a very beautiful place, also in Richmond, in Swaledale. Very, very modern. It's typical Yorkshire stone on the outside, but on the inside, just uber modern and very, very cool. Floor to ceiling glass, great artwork. You've seen it, haven't you? You've been there.
Yeah, high lease. Yeah, high leases.
Yeah, high leases. Yeah. That spiral staircase, very cool, and that is completely dry hire, although we are running it and managing it. But there, there's no corkage, they can bring their own booze, there's a lot of flexibility there, and so that one has just really started taking off. So then that's it. I'm not taking on any more at the moment. We're perfecting those three.
So you've got different things to offer different people, and suit maybe different budgets, different styles, different tastes and things.
Right. Ranges,
let me go back, because we had a question there. So it says here, do you manage all the suppliers, or can brides choose their own suppliers? Caterers. I suppose caterers, that's one of the main things. So at the venues, how does that work then? Can they choose all their own suppliers?
So, good question. So, 2 out of 3 of our venues, you can choose all of your own suppliers. Telford Farm has their own in-house caterer. And the reason why the owner actually insists upon his caterer, though, is he has an incredible, very expensive catering kitchen, and he likes to have the same caterer in there. But she's very versatile, and she can meet all budgets and tastes and styles. So they do get all the flexibility they want. It's not a chicken or fish menu. It's, anything you like.
Yeah.
But at Tanfield House and at High Leases, they can choose whomever they like, and we have an extensive list of suppliers that people can choose from if they don't know where to go or what to do.
Yeah. Is Telford then? So when I stayed there, is that the chef that made all the dinner when I stayed?
Yes, yes.
Right. Okay. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's say firsthand then, incredible food. So,
Yes.
wow.
He's very talented. I never have any concern when couples say, "Oh, I really would like to, have our own caterer." I'm very confident that when they meet G and work through food ideas with her, that they'll be more than happy.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's important. It's sometimes nice. It's maybe a bit, I find when I'm as a planner looking at different venues with couples, and it literally is dry hire, it's sometimes a little bit daunting. Even just to have a caterer, as long as the caterer is, like you said, is G, is very flexible and will meet it and all styles and things. It's quite nice, I think, for a couple to feel secure that they've got at least one supplier, and a big part of the day, the caterer already has an established relationship with the venue, which can help. She knows the kitchen, she knows how it works, she knows, and she can give her invaluable advice then to the couples about how it works and the flow of the day. And
I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah, so it's something else that's kind of ticked off the list, and couples shouldn't feel like they're pushed into having that caterer. They're there for a very good reason. And us as kind of venue, you as a venue owner and host, and me as a planner, we're only recommending people that we know work and fit that venue. So, but then all of the suppliers, then they can choose who they like. But you've got, preferred suppliers, haven't you? You've worked with.
And in our preferred suppliers, we worked really hard to try and offer a range and keep up to date with styles and trends, and and in doing so, speaking to new suppliers all the time. We don't just work with the same suppliers endlessly, because the market changes and trends change. And with your help, and I'm always going back to you, who will do this, Lisa? You're like, I know.
I love ring. It's fab though. I love that though. I love still being asked and being helpful. So never stop.
You have been from the very beginning, because you are a wealth of knowledge and experience. You're about half my age, but you know an awful lot more than I do. It is really, really valuable. But the one thing I will say about all the flexibility with suppliers is that we do insist that suppliers come to the venue before the wedding and just completely suss it out, so there are no surprises. The last thing you want is a caterer ill-equipped to deliver your wedding day. So they have to come out, they have to sit with us, they have to go through all the logistics. And they're all prepared to do that. But I would say at least 80% of the time, couples will go with suppliers that we've worked with before. It just gives them confidence.
Yeah, exactly. That's the peace of mind, isn't it? But nice to know if they do have a preferred photographer or artist or whatever, they can do that as well. So then, going back to Tanfield then, so a typical, I know it's not this summer, it won't be like that, but a typical kind of wedding week, let's say it's the 100 guests, what does that week look like for you, on marquee going up and preparations, because it's not just the wedding day, is it? There's so much more to what you have to do to get it ready for the wedding. So talk through that wedding.
So, so I suppose the week of the wedding, a wedding for us, every wedding for us is really a week to 10 days. Not for the couple, but for us, it's a week to 10 days, whether it's at our venue or it's at our own home, or if it's at the other venues. So obviously we start with the grounds and the garden and the house and getting it all right. But it's all I have a shared wedding planning spreadsheet with the couples. And so it's just ticking all of that off, making sure that everything is as it should be, liaising with all the key suppliers, giving them running orders of the day. So everybody knows timings, staff, and all the staff know the menus, and just all those details, that everybody knows what they're doing on the day, so that when the day comes, there's really nothing for us to worry about. I mean, I don't tend to get very stressed, but I do I don't work with inefficient suppliers, let's just put it that way. You know, if they're
Yeah.
letting me down, they don't come again. But
Yeah.
yes, so it's all those details. It's crossing the T's and dotting the I's. And then the wonderful moment on the Friday morning when our couple arrive is just so exciting. I just love that bit, because that's the
Yeah.
day when they get to take over the venue that whole day and just have all that time. And I think that's one of the really great USPs of our venues, is they don't get 2 hours to decorate their room. They get a whole weekend. So they come in on the Friday morning, they get that whole day, either with their supplier or or on their own, whoever's doing their flowers and their styling, they get that whole day, and they can bring their friends and family, and they enjoy the garden, and they can hang out, and there's music, and there's little glasses
Yeah.
of prosecco, and they're decorating. And that's actually, for me, I love that as much as the wedding day.
Yeah, it's so much like it's the start of the celebration, the start of the weekend, kind of, and that is exactly how it should be. I think it's not just the one day, kind of in on the Saturday. So, and that's nice to know you both are there as well on hand to help with any questions they might have. And is it normally then who stays on the Friday? Say it's a Saturday wedding, who stays on the Friday?
Yeah, I mean, specifically at Townfield House, I'll talk about, because it's slightly different. The
Mm.
other venues, they can accommodate more. So at Townfield House, we offer the wedding suite. So the couple tend to stay on the Friday night, and we have an apartment on the end of the house which sleeps 4. So, and there are 2 very good pubs in the village. So if the couple are being traditional, the groom often stays in one of the pubs with his ushers and groomsmen and, you know, groom's party. And the bride will often stay in the bridal suite with her, often with her maid of honor. We've got an extra bed in there, so it's a sort of nice
Yeah.
sofa, but it becomes a bed. So often with her maid of honor. And in the apartment might be some close family, or it might be some other bridesmaids. And then generally they will go up to one of the pubs on the Friday night and have the sort of rehearsal dinner. So they've had the day on the Friday, they've set up. We then do a full rehearsal with them at 4 or 5 o'clock. We've put away all the step ladders and the safety pins and everything else,
Yeah.
and we're all just immaculately cleared. So as
Yeah.
they leave to go off and just refresh and relax after their rehearsal, when all the nerves are settled down, they know what they're doing, and they're having their Friday evening meal, wherever that might be. It may be here in the apartment, or it might be in the village. And Neil and I will then perfect everything, so that on Saturday morning we're doing breakfast for 6 in the drawing room, and everybody is just calm. So it's hair and makeup and all of that.
Yeah.
And then we will start receiving suppliers, and the bride and the groom at that point are oblivious to what's going on. On their wedding day, they have nothing to think about apart from being happy.
Yeah.
A little bit
Yeah.
nervous, maybe, you know, and
Yeah.
listening to music.
Oh.
And then receiving the registrars and doing all of that, and then the ceremony happens. And I have to say, every single time a couple walk out of my house and into that gazebo to get married by the river, I feel emotional, because I just can't believe the privilege. I know it sounds a little bit staged to say that,
No.
because I'm selling our venue, but it is a deeply emotional moment that people have chosen our home to get married in. It's an important day of their lives. But so that happens in the ceremony, and then in the gazebo, or in the drawing room. They can get married in the house if they want to. And then the party starts. So it's, you know, drinks and canapes on the lawn or in the marquee, and then it's the meal. And, you know, we keep everything flowing. The flow, as you know, is really important. So I really work hard with them on the running order of the day, and it's got to work for them. But best practice, I tend to recommend, you know, I don't like really long drinks receptions. Guests get bored standing around. They just, you know, you want to keep the whole thing moving. And we're watching for temperature, lighting, comfort, you know, and the house is open all the time. So, you know, the older generation will wander in and they'll kick their shoes off and their feet up, and we'll bring them a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. And there's that flow all day.
So. It's so nice. It's just slightly different in a really good way, that they definitely feel like it's theirs for the weekend, and can relax. And I know, because I've you know, experienced that, and it's a celebration for the whole weekend. But I know what you mean about, I've always said, the day I don't feel emotional for someone's wedding is the day I'll just stop, because I still get nervous, although I don't show it, Hannah. You know, you and I are like swans, just elegantly gliding through the day. Underneath, we're like flapping like mad, going, "Oh my God, is this done, that done?" But we'll never show that to the couple, obviously, because everything is done. But I think because we're like that, it makes us good at our jobs, because we care so much, and we are so emotionally involved with couples, because we work with them for so long about making this day perfect to them, that it's so, you can't help but be emotional about it, and and feel the kind of all the emotions and the love in the day. It's amazing, and such a privilege. You're right, very privileged.
It is a privilege, yeah. It's hard work. I mean, weddings are hard work. We do a lot of
Yeah,
work for the money that we charge for these venues. I mean, we really do a lot of work. But
yeah,
speaking of money, actually, in the wake of COVID, we have put together some really amazing packages just to do a bit of a plug for the venues.
yeah.
So, and they're getting a lot of attention.
That's,
And you know, we've all got over the shock of this situation that we're in at the moment, and we've
mm,
rescheduled all our weddings into next year,
yeah,
and
that's,
focusing very much on you know, all our new weddings coming up. But the lovely thing is that couples now have the time to sit and plan.
yeah, yeah,
They are getting engaged. Lockdown
yeah.
engagements are happening.
Oh, definitely. I've had 4 or 5 new bookings, and yeah, they are getting it. I think people are thinking, right, well, if this has happened, let's, what are we waiting for? Let's crack on with
What are
our
we
life,
waiting for?
bring it
Exactly.
out and get on with it. So, which is
So,
great.
so I have always steered away from packages. I always steered away from wedding packages because
Mm,
our venues are very bespoke, and the weddings that we run are very bespoke. But at the end of the day, couples do want to know what the bottom line is going to be. They
yeah,
do need to know what the ultimate spend is going to be.
yeah,
And unlike some of the weddings that you run, Lucy, we are, I would say, lower to mid range, rather than, you know, hundreds of thousands. We really, you know, so
yeah,
our weddings, the average at our venues would be anywhere between 10 and 15,000.
yeah,
All might
yeah,
not include the dress. There's no control over the dress
yeah.
budget, but certainly all in, we're in the 10 to 15 region, for weekends, for entire weekends, for extended stays. So
Oh, which is amazing.
um, it's
Amazing.
extraordinary. It's extraordinary. But
How did,
that is with these packages we put together. So they won't be around forever, these packages. So I would just like to say that in the wake of COVID for 2021 weddings, and the dates are disappearing fairly quickly, but we do still have some at all the venues, at all 3 venues. So at Tanfield House, we're 4,000 all in for a 1-day midweek. And
oh,
on a weekend, we're 10,000 all in for a weekend wedding. And
wow.
that's for an average of 50 people, an average
Yeah,
of 50 people. Then at Telford Farm, we're doing a 2-night midweek stay for 50 people. They don't all stay, 18 or 20
yeah,
stay.
yeah.
For weddings of 50 people at Telford Farm, 8,000 all inclusive for a 2-night midweek stay. And at the weekend,
Yeah.
at the weekend, a 10,000 all inclusive for 50 people. And it's really exciting. People are really biting our hands off for it. But it's, you know, it's not, we haven't done it because we are now very busy next year. We've done it for lots of reasons, and we're offering another additional small discount for NHS and care
Oh,
workers.
that's good. Yeah, nice.
But you know, we're doing it because everybody's feeling the pinch.
Yeah,
Everybody's feeling the pinch, and it's the
yeah,
right thing to do. And we do
yeah,
have some availability left next year. But I would say to couples in general, start either if you want next year. We need to get on with it for
yeah,
everybody, not just our venues. Everyone's busy because of the
yeah.
postponements.
Oh,
But 2022 is a good thing to start looking at now.
yeah, definitely. Well, I've
Mm.
had 2 bookings for 2022. I think people are either they're kind of going, right, well, we'd always thought we're going to get married next year, and now it's full speed ahead because
Mm.
everybody suddenly we've got 2 years worth of weddings and events happen. And don't forget, it's not just weddings, is it? People could book your venues for, you know, just a weekend away or
Yeah.
some
Mm. Mm.
party celebration. So there's
And there
all,
will be a lot of that, you know, people
yeah,
getting together.
absolutely.
Yeah.
There's two
Mm.
years worth going into next year. So couples either need to, if they're getting engaged and adamant they want to go for next year, brilliant, but they need to crack on, or consider thinking 2022, but still getting on with it, because there will still be an overspill, I think, of 2021 couples going into 2022. So yeah, I think now is the time when you've got you know, you know, hopefully, well, possibly everyone's circumstances are different, but if they've been furloughed, they've got some time on their hands. Never assuming that everyone, you know, is not working, to get on with the planning, because most suppliers in the wedding and event industry are, you know, self-employed, most of them, or still contactable. So to make contact with them now, and they've got time to do this kind of thing, a video chat, and really get
Mm.
to know suppliers and really choose them wisely, now is the
Mm.
time to do it, definitely.
And the other thing, sorry to interrupt you, Lucy, the other thing
No,
we're offering, just in case couples are thinking, well, how do I choose my venue if I can't go to it? So
yeah,
what we're doing at the moment is we've got virtual tours for all 3 venues.
yeah,
So I can do a Zoom shared screen virtual tour of the venues, and I'd never done that before. I go to the venue every time I meet a couple, and actually it's revolutionized the whole process. So we can all
yeah,
sit with our cup of tea and we can go through it. they can invite anybody they want to. So yeah, whoever's involved in your decision making, mum, dad, you know, obviously both the couple, can all sit and watch it at their leisure. We go through it in great detail. It's almost exactly the same as being at the venue, with the exception of the feel of the place.
Yeah.
And actually, at the moment, what we're saying is, once they've done that, if they really feel it's going to be a good fit for them, we're offering refundable booking deposits until they have seen it.
Yeah.
So we're taking all the risk out, basically,
Yeah.
to enable couples to be able to commit without any anxiety. And, you know, so when they do get round to viewing, when lockdown is over and we're allowed to, or even during this process of evolving out of it, when we're allowed to do those viewings, socially distanced, I'm sure, we will then, if there's a horrible surprise and suddenly there's a building site next to one of the venues, which they weren't expecting, which we don't have, by the way, but, you know, if there was something that they hadn't anticipated, then
Yeah.
they can have the deposit back. But by paying the deposit, it secures their date. We know they're genuinely interested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the window of getting that back? Is it just as soon as, you know, maybe a week after they've viewed it?
Immediate. You know, we're not a huge business. We can do it straight away. Yeah.
That's brilliant. See, that's really good. It just shows going more personal and bespoke venue where you are personally looking after them and running them, and obviously live in Tanfield. You're getting that service, that amazing customer service that can do that, and you're making the decisions. So it's not like going into a bigger establishment where you get shown around by someone and they have to go and find out the decision, and it's a process. This is straight by you, showing them around, you're making the decisions. I think that makes such a difference as well. It's brilliant. So so then what in the event wedding world as a venue, what is one of your biggest challenges, do you think?
One of our biggest challenges during COVID, or just
no, just in general, COVID aside, just in general.
I would say the biggest challenges. Well, I suppose the wedding venue business is competitive, so remaining seen and heard, and, you know, doing your marketing. That's been a steep learning curve. I'm getting better at it, you know. This is my very first Instagram live. Hopefully we'll have more.
And you're going to do some more though, aren't you?
So doing that, making sure that you're on top of things. I mean, as you know, running your own business, Lucy, you could spend 80% of your time marketing. And actually, you know, the job in itself is quite a big job. So, you know, it's just managing time, I suppose, and making sure that you're getting all of that done. Maintaining the venues, you know, making sure they're always up to scratch. Every year when it's downtime and it's the off season, there's always a renovation issue. There's always another project to do. Just maintaining standards, keeping standards high, and keeping up with regulations and food hygiene, and making sure that all your suppliers have all their insurances and the behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah, it's never ending, isn't it? And you mentioned there about the season. So when is your season? Are all the venues the same, or do you do weddings at all the venues all year round, or does it change?
So Tanfield House is really a spring summer venue, because what people are really buying into here is the Riverside and the garden. And although we have plenty of parking here, it's not great in wet weather. So it's very much a spring summer venue. Whereas Telford Farm and Telford Farm and High Leases are both year round, because they can accommodate a lot of people inside. Their parking is all weather, and they've got lovely open fires and wood burners, and, you know, perfect for all year. Although I would say, particularly Telford, but I would say High Leases, because of its floor-to-ceiling glass, and it feels more of a spring summer. But
definitely. But that's good. So you've got something for everyone there as well, which is brilliant. The weather can be a bit of, well, it's usually that's the one thing, isn't it? The weather is a massive kind of challenge for all suppliers, I suppose. But the wedding I did with you at Tanfield, it chucked it down. We had to I think it was Neil and I were doing it, and then we had the chairs outside ready for the ceremony, then inside. Well, it's the British weather, you just don't know. But thankfully we'd planned for it. We'd kind of thought, well, if it does happen, this is where the ceremony is going to have to go. And it was beautiful. It all worked fine. And we just have to kind of be reactive as well as proactive.
Well, actually, that was the only wedding that didn't choose to have their ceremony in the Riverside Pavilion. They wanted to be out on the lawn. That was the difficulty, because actually the setup that we have is sheltered and shaded, and everybody's comfortable. Even though people are outside, they're all very comfortable, but they just wanted something different. And actually, I'd just like to clarify for all your followers that are watching you that the only reason we've ever done one wedding together is because you have very, very high budget weddings. So
Oh,
generally,
well,
otherwise we would do loads more.
I know. Well, no, we yeah, it's funny, isn't it? I do a lot of different weddings. It seems to be a lot of high end. Well, we say high end. It's just a bigger budget. But I love it when I do. I love that wedding because it was more of a challenge. One thing about wedding, you can't buy time. So everyone has the same amount of time in a wedding day. So and I've spoken to clients who have huge budgets, £250,000 to spend. You think, but you can't then, yes, you could fill that day full of all sorts of things, but actually at a wedding, it's about the people who are there and, you know, good food, good drink, good music to me. So if you fill it full of lots of entertainment, you're distracting and separating all the groups of people. So when you've got a smaller budget, I think people are just more careful with where they put that budget, what they put it into. And one of the questions I ask as a planner is, before we look at suppliers, is rate, you know, top to here's all a list of suppliers from florists to caterers to music to obviously the dress, the attire, what order, and to the bride and the groom separately, what order is your important of priority? Yeah. So it might be they're real foodies, or actually they're not bothered, they just have bangers and mash, the music's more important, or the setting. You know, some of the venues I work in, they spend loads on the venue and then they're just not overly fussed about the rest of it, or they might be happy with, you know, a love beautiful marquee but not decorate it with loads of flowers. It's all about their preference and their priorities.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
As much as I have loads of amazing big budget weddings, definitely the smaller budget weddings I still love and still do planning for, because they are more of a challenge to me, and I love that. It keeps me on my toes, thinking not everybody has that amazing budget.
How can we be creative? I mean, another really good question for couples to ask themselves when they're planning, and I'm sure you say it to your couples, is, you know, looking through your friends and family, you know, who's got what talents, you know, who can make an amazing cake, who's good at flowers, who's got a lovely car, you know, all those things, because actually they are, as you say, if they're not things that are high on your list of must have the perfect, then it could just be perfect for them.
Yeah, exactly. There's always somebody, you know, somebody who can do something like that and help out. And actually, that makes it a real, again, like you and with your venues, a very personal wedding day, as opposed to, yes, you went to the most amazing whatever supplier. You know, Auntie Jean could make the cake and it would be incredible. And it's all about who's done it. So yeah, it's definitely not always about the money. Definitely not.
A growing trend we've seen actually in recent years is pets at weddings.
So, and are they allowed at all your venues? Are you allowed pets?
Yeah. So people bring dogs, mainly dogs. I haven't had anything, and I've had nothing else apart from my own cat walking down an aisle on one occasion. But yeah, so we do have the pet friendly venues, and so working with that, because people's pets are like their children very often, and actually they really want them to be part of their day, and they really want to figure out how they can be incorporated. And actually I've got one lovely supplier who actually provides pet care all day, so she does all the beautifying of the pet and making sure. It's really important to make sure that your pet is calm, because actually they behave very out of character in a not highly stressed, but you know, the energy levels are high on a wedding day, and a lot of people, a lot of noise. So as long as they're well managed, and we just have thought that through, but it's a really nice thing seeing a dog on a lead going down the aisle.
Oh, that's lovely. So I've definitely had dogs. I've had weddings where they've had the rings delivered by an owl, which is not actually as straightforward and as amazing as the rings. I've had cats at weddings, definitely owls, lots of owls. Definitely had llamas. Can't think what else.
Yeah. Love that. I've never had any of that. No, we're just dogs so far.
Yeah, well, dogs is a start. So what's your kind of next, do you think you're going to expand your portfolio of venues, or just stick with the three? What's the kind of next kind of dream for Riverside?
Yeah, well, we'd like to really just perfect what we're doing at these three. So Tanfield House and Telford Farm are very established now and they're running really well. High Lisa's Farm is newer and we haven't actually done any weddings there yet. We've sold weddings there, but this year was meant to be our first season.
Oh, right.
So we haven't done them yet. So I'd just like to get all of that bedded down and give those venues my 100% focus.
Yeah.
And we've started growing our team and so we're training people. But there is another venue that's approached us and yeah, I'm very tempted at the
Oh,
right time. They're not quite ready yet either, but it is
oh,
utterly beautiful. As 10 bedrooms, 10 bathrooms in the most magnificent grounds. It's just a beautiful period house. It's not a stately home. It's just a beautiful
yeah.
period house that was a family home for a long time. But the real USP for that, I think, is that everything can happen in the house. No need for marquees.
Yeah, wow.
And yeah, everything having that beautiful big rooms. So very grand staircase, beautiful hall, great big, huge, great drawing room, which could be the dining room with French doors out onto the lawn. Stunning grounds, a river running through the grounds, well, a sort of brook, and a church on site.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, so that would be really exciting.
What would be the capacity for dining in there? To be 50
We're,
people?
we're thinking 80 to 100.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Sorry, Lucy. Teenager's ignoring dog care. He's scratching at the door. Just bear with me a second.
Okay, no problem. Oh,
There we go. It doesn't matter what I say to them, but yeah.
oh,
I've obviously been chatting for too long. They got bored waiting for me.
oh, bless. Oh, that venue sounds amazing. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that would be really exciting. So if that did go ahead, they're just working through things at the moment. So circumstances of the house are changing, and if that happens, it would be another Yorkshire venue near Northallerton. And so great. I mean, the lovely thing about all our venues is they're all very private, they're all very secluded, but they've all got really good access from the A1.
okay,
So they're not difficult to get to, and they all offer accommodation. And while Tanfield House only offers accommodation for 6, we've got Cedar Retreats, we've got Riverside Lodges, we've got 2 pubs in the village, we've got endless B&Bs. So we're really well catered for within walking distance. But
yeah,
all of them can accommodate a lot of people. And the non-resident guests, we also help with local accommodation and minibus transport to and from the weddings and things.
oh, brilliant. So you like cover everything really, which is a dream for a
Think of
bride.
everything. Think of
Yeah,
everything.
definitely. So is there so obviously you are still contactable at the moment during this the pandemic. You so obviously you mentioned brides and grooms can do the Zoom kind of talk with you and chat to you and everything with all the venues and start the planning. So is there anything you want to say to any brides and grooms watching, any advice or anything else you want to say about your venues, Jim?
Well, the advice I would say is don't be afraid to pick up the phone. I think certainly time is precious for everybody, and so you don't want to be phoning every single venue. And I think the fear with couples is they're going to get caught up in a sales call. I think that's always the fear. But I would like to reassure people that we do not do that.
Yeah.
So we have a very brief chat when people call and just ask very basic information to figure if they might be a good fit for the venue, or if the venue would be a good fit for them and their plans.
Yeah.
And so that's quite a brief call. And if that, they just want to ask the key questions. And the key questions are capacity, availability, and budget, really.
Yeah.
And then we'll jump on a Zoom call when it's convenient for them. But none of that is it's non-obligation and it's non-committal. So they just ask. It's much better to speak. Because emails, you don't get a feel for, if you, all I'm saying is you don't call every venue, but if you see one that you think, actually, I do really quite like that, emails don't often really cover everything that you want and that you need to know. And you also, they need to like me. If they don't like me, they're not going to work with me. And actually, you know, you're very sweet and we're good friends and we really like each other. But, you know, synergy, as you know, is very important. Yeah. And they will discover that, well, historically I would discover it through meeting me at the venues, but now these Zoom calls, they are equally as efficient at figuring out the personality of the people and can I work with that person? And also I like to find out in those meetings before we actually do the tour of the property, I just need to find out what are the most important things to them about their wedding, as you mentioned earlier, actually.
Yeah.
And you know, for some it'll be the flowers or the food, and for others it'll be something more emotional, you know, something, you know, significant that's going on in their lives or that's important to them. And you only discover that stuff through a conversation.
Yeah, that's so true. Do you know what I'm finding at the moment? When one of my brides for next year, because we had a Zoom chat with her florist, her stylist, and myself and the bride, and obviously then I could, you know, the bride was sitting in her living room, and I actually learned more about that bride. She's only just recently booked, and we've had emails, chats and stuff, and a few phone calls, but and I've never actually met her in person yet. Because of COVID, you know, happened. But I've learnt a lot about her from seeing her living room, and so did the florist and so did the stylist about what actually her personal taste is.
Yeah.
How amazing! We probably would never have had that Zoom call, and maybe see the florist, the stylist, and myself chatted afterwards, and we said, "Gosh, actually, now we actually get her vision because we have seen an insight into her."
Yeah, interesting. You probably would never be in their home necessarily.
No, probably not, because unless she's going to be getting ready there, which she's not. She's the venue's far from where she lives. So yeah, it was an insight. So that there's an upside to all of this as well. Better in that.
Something I discovered recently also, Lucy, which is worth mentioning. I don't know how many couples are on this call, or brides or grooms or whatever, but I came across a little loophole, because sometimes the restrictions for booking weddings at our venues is the availability of the registrars.
Yes.
And we're part of the Hamilton district, and the registrars can get very, very booked up. And that's, while we might be available, they may not.
Yeah.
And so that can be a sort of hurdle for couples booking the dates that they want. But recently I have come to know a really fantastic celebrant called Jackie Warburton from I Do Your Ceremony. I introduced you to her.
You did, yeah. Thank you.
But the beauty of working with Jackie is that she used to be a registrar. She's the registrar, but she does these very creative, very beautiful ceremonies. And so she's able to advise couples as to how to get through all of that and how to achieve the most beautiful ceremony at their chosen venue without necessarily legalities happening there.
Yeah.
And what I didn't realize, and I mean, you will probably know this, Lucy, but I hadn't realized that if you get your legalities done in a registry office before your wedding day, most couples hate the idea of having it separated out. So actually we want it all happening on the same day. But to get your legalities done is a process of apparently 8 minutes, and it doesn't require exchanging rings or vows. It is literally paperwork.
Yeah.
And so then, and that costs about £57 or something.
Yeah, it's nothing. Yeah.
Nothing. And then somebody like Jackie Warburton can then come to the venue at your chosen date and conduct the most beautiful ceremony, including the rings and the vows, and your congregation are none the wiser.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've always said that working with the Church Conservation Trust, a lot of those churches they're not deconsecrated, they're just disused, and they don't like doing the ceremonies. It's quite hard to actually have the legal ceremonies within those churches. So yeah, a lot of them have blessings. No, the one thing with that is you do have to have the legal bit done first.
Yeah.
So you can't bless something or have you know, anything blessed that hasn't happened. And usually that's the way with the celebrants as well. It's not a specific thing. The blessing's usually done by a vicar. So yeah, with a celebrant you probably could do it the other way around, but you probably wouldn't want to. But yeah, the actual ceremony is you don't have to do any, it's just the words. You have to just make the vows basically. But yeah, if you cut out all readings, any music, it literally is 7-8 minutes.
Yeah.
No rings. I mean, I've been a witness for a registry office ceremony. Literally myself, another person, the couple, and the registrar, and that was it. Because they were going to have the big white wedding the next day, and they didn't want any family members there, because to them they were just signing paperwork. That's it.
Yeah. So psychologically they'd sort of compartmentalize.
Yeah.
And that's what I think. You know, it's a very personal thing, but I just love couples to know that that is an option.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I wanted to mention is that, you know, moving forward out of this COVID situation, which please God we are, you know, progressively, it may be in the process with well, as we evolve out of it, that, you know, outdoor ceremony is going to be more and more popular.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, we can't sell any more weddings this year at the moment because registrars are not taking any new bookings for this year. They're taking new bookings now for next year.
Yeah.
But even next year, you know, I do think it's worth considering venues with options for outdoor ceremonies in case we need to do this social distancing and we need to do this, you know, smaller scenarios. And so with both Tanfield House and Telford Farm, we are licensed for outside ceremonies, so we can do that there. It would just be quite weather dependent, and it would need, well, at Tanfield House we're all set up, but at Telford Farm it would require infrastructure that isn't there already. So we might need to put a marquee on the lawn, but it's just something to think about as they're moving forward. Because if couples are thinking, God, if this doesn't go away, we just need to be thinking outside the box a bit. I think it is. I mean, please God, you know, other countries are nearly back to normal now, so please God, we're getting there.
Yeah, hopefully, but it's also good. And as a planner, that's something I always advise is kind of you plan for the worst, don't you? So think, well, okay, if it, and usually the biggest thing going back to is the weather, that we're always kind of like indoor, outdoor, you know, at lots of venues I work with, it's like, well, what's the backup plan if we can't do the ceremony outside? So you can get stretch tents, you could have a pole marquee with no sides on. There's all sorts of options, isn't there? As long as the couple know those costs, they know that, right, this company can do it for you, and we'll just, you know, keep going and then see what the weather does and see what happens with social distancing. And as long as it's all planned for, then there's no surprises, like you said, and everyone hopefully will be happy and be able to be there. I think that's the main thing.
Actually. I can't see a social distancing wedding being tremendously fun. You know, you do.
No.
It's an intimate day. Everybody's hugging. It's emotional. So that's why that's why I recommended all of our couples this year just move, because actually you just don't want uncertainties. We do still have 2 couples for October this year at Telford Farm, and I'm feeling pretty confident about that. Certainly one wedding's very small, it's only 18 people, so I think that'll be fine, because we may be restricted in numbers by the government, but October, I'm feeling hopeful.
Yeah, I would be. I think it's come down to the couple, I suppose. If they were happy to kind of, not happy to, but if they were okay with waking up every morning not knowing what the news is going to be and just keep going and hoping that it's going to happen in October. But I've had a lot of couples that have kind of thought, I don't want that stress, I don't want that worry, waking up every morning not knowing what's going to happen, just want something positive to look forward to. So I'm going to choose my date for 2021, stick to it, move everything, so I know I've got all my suppliers sorted. So it depends on the couple, doesn't it? If, you know, stay strong and keep hope that they can do it this year. I really hope they can.
Yeah, I think certainty is really important, and I'm pretty sure the autumn is going to be okay. The summer was not giving certainty to anybody.
No, it's like the biggest, longest break we've ever had in the event industry.
Lucy, I don't know what to do with myself. Tanfield House is now home again, and the garden is looking magnificent. I'm ready for weddings.
Yeah, I know, and you can enjoy it, can't you? I'm like, oh gosh, I've never had so many consecutive Saturdays where I've just got paperwork to do, and although I'm desperately missing it, I really am. But it's I'm just kind of thinking next year is going to be absolutely manic for me. So I'm just trying to
make the most of the downtime, Lucy.
Yeah,
right?
get it all ready. Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you so much for chatting to me.
Thank you. I've loved it. This is great.
Yeah, and it was easy. You see, it's easy to do. So,
not so scary.
No, exactly. Get used to it, don't you? And I think this is the way forward.
Well, thank you for inviting me on. I really appreciate it. It's always lovely to see you.
You're welcome.
I'm very jealous of your no 4-inch roots like mine. You always look amazing, Lucy.
I've never dyed my hair.
I'm going back to my original colour after this. I can't do this anymore.
It's fine. I've never dyed it. I don't have time and I can't be bothered.
You don't need to. You're gorgeous.
Oh, so do you. Right. I shall speak to you very soon, I'm sure. And you take
Thanks, Lucy. Lots of love. Bye. Bye.